Hey, that shit comes in hot. We're gonna wait for the second boom. Just kidding. Boom. We're here. We are here. Woo! We're here, baby. It feels good. I love fucking Mondays. I fucking love Mondays, boy. If you don't love Mondays, you're not doing the right work. You know, if you don't love Mondays, you may be doing the wrong job. But I get it. Not everybody can do the job that they want. Not everybody can, and I'm still broke, but I'm still broke relatively, but I was broke for a number of years to get it to the place where I can do the stuff that I do now. So I'm very thankful. I had a lot of opportunities, a lot of help along the way. So I'm not a self-made man. I don't think there's any such thing as a self-made man. There's people supporting you along the way, you know. And shout out to all those people who have shown me love and supported me throughout this journey. But I fucking love Mondays. If they said they wanted to record this podcast at 7 a.m., I'd be in here ready to fucking go. Hard dick, ready to fucking go. Love Mondays, dude. So we got a lot of fish to fry. So little time to cook it today. I kind of went off on preparing for this podcast. But a little housekeeping. Shout out to Third Eye Collection. Shout out to Crown with Excellence. Shout out to Snoop Proof. Those companies that I want to support. Black and brown companies. We had Jay Harris from Crown with Excellence on here a couple weeks ago. Shout out to Corey George for an amazing podcast. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze. Woo! Shout out to Corey George for an amazing podcast. You guys got to hear my secrets, and you got to hear my trauma, and you got to hear a black man affirming another black man's experience. And I think we made some magic. So if you haven't listened to me and Corey George, that came out last week, take a listen to that. Share it with everybody. I think what it represented was powerful, and I'm so proud to have that opportunity to do that with him. And shout out to him. He's going through some stuff family-wise, and he's a stand-up dude, a man that shows up for his family and shows up in life and does the work. So shout out to Corey George. He's an inspiration. So a little bit more housekeeping. Big Mood TV. If you're just listening, go to Big Mood TV on YouTube. And subscribe, please. We want to grow that YouTube channel. If you go there, we have a full built-out YouTube channel. It's and we continue to upload all these episodes to YouTube. So if some people like to watch, I watch most of my podcasts. I listen, of course, too when I'm in the car. But if I'm at home, the podcast video is playing in the background. So if you enjoy the podcast, you can watch it. We put clips up on Instagram, so you can share those clips at Eric_Big Mood Coach. If you are listening on iTunes or Spotify, rate this podcast, comment, share it. We want to connect with you. We want to love on you. We have all stories. We try to have as many stories represented here as possible. So we've had doctors, recovering addicts, magazine owners, other content creators, just men and women. And we want, people represented, This is a hope podcast. It's not a motivational podcast. It's not it's not that. It's let's get interesting people on here once a week and have those conversations. We have Dr. Patrick Cucarola coming on tomorrow, who practices regenerative medicine, talks about stem cells and building a healthy body. So we got him coming in tomorrow. That'll come out Friday. And then, we have me sharing my experience, strength, and hope, and what I've journeyed through and what I'm currently journeying through. So now that we got the housekeeping out of the way, I've been skating, boy. I've been skating every day, I'm trying to get fit again. Quarantine, I put on a quarantine 30, not a quarantine 15, a quarantine 30, and which I'm okay with. I feel in some ways more comfortable in my body than I've ever felt In other ways, I feel more out of shape than I've ever felt, and I don't like that. So I'm trying to find different ways to find fitness, and skating. I want to do something fun, so I've been skating every day, skating with my kids, and just doing that. I feel like it's my early midlife crisis, but I enjoy it, man. I enjoy cruising around. It's very San Diego. It's very West Coast, but enjoying cruising around and enjoying the sights because we have a beautiful, beautiful city, just to take a look at. So I've been skating. We just bought a squat rack and a bench for our home in the desert. So we're building the gym out. Those are the first pieces. We got like 400 pounds worth of weights, so we can do some deads and we can do everything. With a squat rack and a bench, you can train every single muscle group pretty effortlessly. So I'll be lifting 3 days a week. I don't want to lift in a gym anymore. I feel comfortable in a gym. I spent 5 years in a gym, 5 a.m. until the evening, every day, 5-6 days a week for 5 years. I just can't do it anymore. Shout out to Ryan Brothers Coffee when they're green bean coffee. I do that every week. But yeah, I just can't be in the gym anymore. It just doesn't feel good to me. So I'm doing it all at home. Get to work out in my no shoes and shorts and no shirt and not worry about who's looking at me, and just I can do it any time of the day. And it's beautiful. The high in the desert is 70 degrees today, going from 120 2 months ago. So we're in the beautiful season of the desert. I got my bike as well in the desert, so I'll be riding. It's nice out, so I'll be riding with my oldest son. Maybe mom is going to get rollerblades, and we'll be rollerblading with mom. What else is going on? Doing some interventions coming up in the next couple of weeks. Have an intervention training coming up in November, so I'll be certified to do interventions under a specific modality, and that's the work I've been doing. I've been doing sober coaching, companionship, life coaching, and interventions, and working with the families. It's very interesting. I find so much more gratification doing this work than I did work in fitness ever. But the fitness thing was a natural progression. I learned how to be a coach, learned how to be a business person generally. And now doing interventions is like all these years of practicing a recovery life is culminating into this work. So it's pretty tight. It's pretty tight to be able to do that and work with the families and support. Is really, because that's what I'm doing. The intervention with the client is a small portion of the task. That's an event for one day, but the family is helping them hold boundaries. That's something we're doing. Excuse me. That's something we're doing. I talk to the families every day and walk with them through that. So very proud to be doing that work. So yeah. So that's what's been going on in my life. But we're gonna talk about a bunch of different things today. But what kind of inspired the podcast is, my partner is a Christian. She grew up Christian, which I support. And as a person with a family, I've participated in that faith practice, not being a Christian myself, but hearing the words of a pastor and the principles of Christianity. But I feel really dedicated to speaking out against systems of oppression, and Christianity and religion is oppressive all over the world. So I feel more dedicated to fighting systems of oppression than I do following a faith practice, especially not a faith practice that is not my spiritual faith practice of origin. It is not my culture. That is white. It's a white person's culture. It's not my ancestors' religion. And it was used to oppress slaves here. My ancestors here Christianity has been used to oppress Christianity's been used to oppress. I just had a conversation with my friend, a friend in the program, and he talked about he didn't feel love growing up. The only thing he trusted was that God loved him. He didn't feel love from his mother or his father. And then when he came out as gay, people told him that he wouldn't have a place in heaven, and the only thing that he thought loved him was now taken from him. Listen to how traumatic that is. I have another friend of mine who came on the podcast, Kevin Francis, who has now found his own LGBT friendly church that he is a pastor of now. So, bless him. And he's doing what he loves to do. And he's faithful no matter what. But he actually had to step down from ministry because he came out and people didn't want, even despite how faithful he is in God, despite how good of a guy he is and how strong his faith is, he was essentially excommunicated from this church. And, the church turned his back on him. The church tells people, oppresses people sexually, and whether it be sexual orientation or sex education. It's just a lot of, and then the financial, you have to pay. You don't have to pay, but you're pressured to pay in because it's in the Bible. And excuse me, there's just a lot of there's a lot of faults and a lot of flaws in every religion, in every organized religion. But my point is, I'm able to, because I'm a sober man, and in this literature I was reading a couple weeks ago, it talks about open yourself up to a spiritual life. All you need is there's a door to spiritual life, and all you need is a key, and the key is open-mindedness and willingness. Just being open-minded and willing to look into a spiritual life. When I say a spiritual life, I mean finding something outside of yourself that is, keeps you grounded, that makes you feel like you're not the center of the universe. You're not the sun in the galaxy. You are just a piece of the puzzle serving others. But, this is kind of outside of me, and this is why this podcast, I went down a rabbit hole, and you'll see where I went as we go. But I was looking at scripture and I was like, what were the commandments? What did Jesus really want? What was Jesus talking about? Because people get real caught up in a lot of the fucked up shit that the Bible has in it. And there's what I've gathered from, first of all, I think Jesus is just a cool ass character. Just the hero's journey that he went on. So even if he's not real, even if he's a cartoon character or superhero, the story and the journey he went on was beautiful. It was beautiful and remarkable, and a story worth respecting. But in Mark 12:30-31, it talks about the most important commandments of Jesus. So Mark 12:30 says, love your Lord, love God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. For me, that's loving, the beautiful things in life. And I'll get into that in a second. And the second commandment, Mark 12:31, the second is love your neighbor as you love yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. When you apply these principles to any higher power, of any sort, any conception you have of a God, that's a beautiful sentiment. For me, I choose love over self. I try to. Sometimes I pick self all the time, and so do you. But the goal for me, like with those commandments, I'm like, choose love, the love of people, the beauty in life. Choose the beauty in life over self. Choose the human connection. Choose the divine relationship between man and woman, or man and man, or the divine relationship between your partner and your lover and partner. Choose the divine relationship of the fellowship of men and women who are journey life with you. Choose the love of your family. Choose the love of humanity. That's to me, that's what that sentiment is. Love God with all your heart and love and all your strength and all your mind. And that's, respect love with all your heart, with all your mind and all your strength, and lean towards love with everything you have. That's what I take from that, which again, it's a beautiful sentiment, and this is, these are the two most important things, in the New Testament, that are commandments of Jesus. And again, I'm not a Christian. These are just things that I've heard over the years, and I'm like, damn, that shit is bars, dog. Hold on. So yeah, it's a beautiful sentiment, and then treat others the way you want to be treated. We all know that. I don't always do that, man. I don't always do that. I am selfish and self-centered by nature. I said this yesterday, and I really believe this. I'm naturally not a good dude. Naturally, like, my resting place is not making the right choices. Some people do. Some people, like, I feel like my brother, he naturally makes the right choices. He's just like, he knows the right thing. And I'm the opposite. Maybe it's my alcoholic nature. Maybe it's my spiritual sickness. Maybe it's my mental illness. But I have disease thinking, whether it be metaphysical disease or it be a mental illness. I just make bad choices. So I'm a hypocrite. Sometimes I love myself way more than I love my neighbor. A lot of the time. But these are spiritual principles of Christianity that I can take and put in my pocket and use them to strive for, and use them to take me through life. And then I went down this rabbit hole even further, and this reminds me of like the Kybalion and Kybalion, and the 7 Hermetic Principles that I talked about a few months ago, and that just talks about the duality of life. As above, as so below. So just like, that the hypocrisy is so part of human nature. Hypocrisy is such a human characteristic. I love and I hate. I'm smart and I am ignorant. I'm intelligent and I'm ignorant. I love and I hate, and I'm a polarized human being, and you're allowed to be, and I'm allowed to be. And part of being a spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual person is the idea that I don't have to be right. The idea that I am allowed. I give myself space to be a hypocrite. I give you space to be a hypocrite. I allow space for that, and I'm okay with that. And that's something. That's where those 7 Hermetic Principles are really cool. Take a look at that. That text, it's super awesome, and it really affirmed that duality for me. It affirmed that, just take a look. But then I continued down the spiritual rabbit hole, thinking of the duality in my life, and I'm a big meditator, and I really have a deep reverence for Buddhist principles, and I was like, how can I tie Buddhism to Christianity, and this? How can the principles tie together? Again, this is me just contemplating infinity. Just the God concept is just I'm so lucky to be able to ponder this shit. Because before I was very dogmatic in like the idea that there was no God, or that we were God, and being on mushrooms, we're all gods and manifestations of God. And you know what I mean? Like I was just so crazy when it comes to the idea of a spiritual life. And now I'm open-minded. And I'm willing to look at spiritual practice and apply them in spiritual practice and principles and apply them in my life, But anyway, I started thinking about Buddhism because I'm such a heavy meditator, and there's so many parts of Buddhism that are important to me. Like for me, what makes Buddhism so cool to me is the 4 Noble Truths, right? Those are the 4 principles, 4 major principles of Buddhism, and then there's the Noble Eightfold Path, which I'll get into. But the first noble truth is suffering. Life is always involved suffering in obvious forms and subtle forms. Even when things are good, we always feel an undercurrent of anxiety and uncertainty inside. And how true is that? And I say that shit on this podcast all the time. We talk about suffering. I talk about my alcoholic suffering. I talk about my mental illness and the suffering there. I talk about that suffering, but suffering too. Your divorce, suffering in your job that you hate. I watch people in my family work a job that sucks the soul out of them, and they were suffering. I watch people go through heartache and suffer. I'm watching my friend, one of my closest friends, go through a breakup, and he is suffering right now. He's suffering right now. And I watch people go through financial suffering and financial anxieties and uncertainties. And so that first principle that life is suffering is just something to say, okay, I'm living a life that I know and I understand involves suffering. Cool. What's next? And then we pay attention to the cause of suffering. And for me, this is a big one for me. The cause of my suffering is fundamental ignorance and craving. The leaning on the world is the reason of my suffering. I talk about that shit on the podcast all the time. The sex, the body, the validation, the money, the world, the craving, our carnal cravings are the 7 deadly sins are the reason, are the cause of my suffering. And the goal is to absolve myself for that. And then the third is the end of suffering. The end of suffering. Obscurations are temporary. Suffering is temporary. Therefore, suffering can end because obscuration can be purified and awakened, and an awakened mind is always available to us. There's peace available. There's peace available. And I talk about meditation on here and I talked about it for weeks over and over. Peace in your own mind. I think I even wrote a post about it recently. Finding peace in your own mind. Don't find peace in the world, man. Don't find peace in the world. Find peace in your own mind. And that's where my suffering ended. It's where my real suffering. I still have suffering. I still struggle with lust. I still struggle with greed. I still struggle with pride. I still struggle with these things. But I don't suffer anymore. Pain is part of life. Suffering is optional. Suffering is optional. And you don't have to suffer. Just find peace. And maybe you need to try to find peace in everything else before you figure out that peace is within you. And I hate to be that guy, but this is ancient shit, man. This is not, when we talk of like New Age, you hear New Age, stuff. This isn't New Age. This is thousands of years old. This is not New Age. And it's so profound that they knew this. And this applies especially to the world we live in now, with the vapid culture of social media, with the rampant individualism of American culture. Like, hey, we are not individuals. We are meant to do life in fellowship. We are what's it called? We are codependent creatures. We need each other. And we are very much the same, and more the same than not. More the same than not. And we have this rampant culture of individuality. Be yourself. Yes, be yourself. I myself, I think I am an odd egg, but I think I'm just like you. I don't think I'm any different than you. I think I have my own experiences. I have my idiosyncrasies, but I'm just like you, and I feel that, generally. I feel it the most in 12-step. I feel like, damn, there's thousands of people, if not the thousands of people in San Diego, millions of people in the world who feel just like me. But awakened mind is available to you. A peace is available to you. And, the fourth noble truth is that by ethically living, practicing meditation, developing wisdom, we can take exactly the same journey to enlightenment and freedom from suffering that the Buddha did. And this ties into an article I read. But actually, really quick, I'm not super versed on this, but it's something I'm going to get super versed on. But I want to just unroll the Noble Eightfold Path. Excuse me. It's right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. I could break that down. We could do a whole podcast on that. Objective understanding, next indicated steps, impeccable with your word, It's not what your mind is doing, it's what your feet are doing. Right action, right livelihood, being of service, right effort, trying your best, right mindfulness, finding peace in your own mind, right concentration, focus on whatever task. Those are I don't know if those correlate, but you can change those however you want. And that's the thing with spirituality is you can make it whatever you want, dude. All you need is that open-mindedness and willingness, bruh, and you can make your own. You can make your own. And that's one thing 12-step gives you the opportunity to do that. It gives you the opportunity to ponder God, ponder existence, ponder the universe, and to look at faith practice and say, I like this, I like that, I like this, I like that. These are great principles to live by. Jesus' two most important commandments, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor like you love yourself. You can take those things, you could take the Four Noble Truths, you could take the Eightfold Path and apply them to your life. And that's, what I hope to do and what I strive to do. So this also led me down, I was looking at articles and just reading up on the ties between Christianity and Buddhism. And I found an article by Reverend Dr. Shanta Premawardhana. Reverend Dr. Shanta Premawardhana. And he talks about growing up as a Christian in Buddhist Sri Lanka, and how that made him a better Christian. The article is, and I'll put the link to the article in the bio, it's 3 Buddhist insights that make me a better Christian. One thing that he learned was that Buddhism taught him that we never arrive. We're always on a journey, like the journey of the Buddha. We never are it. It's never it. It's never, I shared last night that this is just the way I am. Unacceptable. There's a journey you're on. And also I talked about trudging the road to happy destiny. What trudge means is to walk laboriously. Put your book bag. I talked about this on a podcast. Put your book bag on, put one foot in front of the other and trudge the road to happy destiny. But life is not about arriving at a destination. It's about the journey to the destination. And that maybe that journey is 70-year-old man sitting on the porch with his grandkids around him. Maybe that's the journey until I take my last breath. But the journey, life is the journey. And you hear this sounds like such bullshit, like life is the journey, not the destiny, like you hear all these things. But the reason people say shit like this is because it's fucking true. That's why people have sayings and catchphrases and they're a little annoying. But I don't ever want to feel like this is it. That's one thing that being a sober parent I get to do is when I'm shitty to my kids, because guess what? Even though I'm sober, I'm still shitty to my kids. Not shitty like I beat the fuck out of them, obviously. Not shitty like I insult them. But I'm shitty in the sense that I'm not as patient as I want to be. I'm shitty in the sense that I'm not as loving and understanding as I want to be, but I get to, walk this path and I get to, continue that journey with them over their lives. God willing, we both have long lives. I get to journey with my children. So it's not where you arrive. It's the journey that's focusing on life. And I think in this article, he was talking about his Christian walk as well. His Christian journey, his faith practice, being forever growing, and forever, forever evolving. And I want that sentiment. I want to echo that sentiment. I want to say that I'm always evolving, always becoming better, and growing along the journey. Let that bitch breathe. God damn, that's refreshing. The second thing he learned was journey requires discipline. Buddhists taught him without discipline, the journey will fall apart. For me, practice of spiritual principles, practice of humility, personal responsibility, fellowship, the practice of spiritual principles, kindness, empathy, meditation, the disciplines of meditation. I meditate every single day. Now I have. Some days I miss a day, but recently I have been doing every single day. Every single day. And I don't always want to. Sometimes I put my AirPods in and I lay in bed and I'm supposed to meditate, I have 2 hours to meditate. I take a 2-hour break every day to meditate. And a lot of times, like I said, I fall asleep towards the end of my meditation because I'm so theta brainwave the fuck out that I fall asleep. But so I set a timer for myself. But sometimes I sit on my phone and just scroll through Instagram, procrastinating my meditation, you know, but you get it done. Some days you don't want to. Some days you don't want to, dude. I didn't want to this morning. I already meditated for 20 minutes this morning. Some days you don't want to, but you get it done. You get it done. But spiritual life requires discipline. That goes into the eightfold path as well. Right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, disciplines. But we hear all of the motivators of the world talking about discipline. How are we doing on time? We hear all the motivators in the world. Thank you, perfect. Talk about discipline. Discipline equals freedom, and yes, fitness discipline equals freedom. Make your bed, but for me, spiritual discipline and recovery discipline in my recovery are paramount to continue to help me live the life that I love. And I love my life. I get to do this. I woke up hard dick this morning. Hard dick, ready to fuck. Just kidding. Just got to add a little bit of that when we're talking about God, It's duality, my friends. It's duality. But the third thing that he acknowledges is the journey to require. I just had a stroke. Hold on. All right, I'm alive. The journey requires us to travel light. When his disciples asked the Buddha about God, he was silent, believing that pondering on the divine may distract you from the focus necessary to transcend the unsatisfactory conditions of our existence. So Buddha's not talking about God, dude. That's one thing. Like, I talk to Christians who have a hard time with Buddhism, and Buddha's not talking about. He's not Jesus, Buddha's not talking about God. Buddha's talking about enlightenment, the state of being, it's transcending that craving, those 7 deadly sins, transcending that. And on that journey, packing a life full of craving, packing a life full of the world makes that journey heavy. What else? The Buddha says that there is that there is no need to cling to anything. Clinging or craving is what causes the dissatisfaction of existence in the first place. So learning to get beyond that, following the precepts of the path, is our spiritual quest. Again, Eightfold Path, we're following it. But I don't need the world. This fucking stupid sweater, this dope ass Big Mood shirt, my goddamn black blazers, these things are just coverings to me. But these are not things to carry on the path to finding peace in my own mind. I don't need things along the journey, and I think that's what's made me get to the point where I'm able to find any success right now, is that I've kind of, no, I'm not, I was about to lie. I still love shit. I still love things, dude. But I know I can't cling to the world along my spiritual path. Along my spiritual journey, I can't cling to the world. I just can't. I can't cling to the lust and the greed and the envy and the pride. I can't cling to it all. Let that bitch breathe. Life is about releasing yourself of those things. Relieve me of the bondage of self. Lean on the divine in life, the love, the connection, the beauty of the world, the humanity of us. The things that make us human, the things that we love about each other, the duality of life, the things we hate about each other. Lean on the beauty in life. That duality is beautiful to me, honestly. The creating the space for me to be anybody who I want to be. To be both. I want to be both. I want to be both. A good dad and a flawed dad. I want to be both. Lastly, he talks about what the Buddha said on his deathbed to his disciples. All conditioned things are impermanent. Work out your salvation with diligence. With diligence. Let's look up the word diligence. We know what it means, but we're going to look up the direct definition. But with diligence, careful and persistent work or effort. Work on your salvation with diligence. And honestly, that's one thing that I have done in my entire recovery, and I think that's what's made it so I'm not shitting on Imperial, is that I work diligently on my recovery. I work diligently on my recovery, and I change. I change a lot. I grow a lot. I grow. I've grown so much over my life. But yeah, man, this is a heavy podcast. Not heavy, but just contemplating infinity. Just like this is all from. I was on my computer and I'm hearing my girl's church service on the on the television, and I'm just hearing. And I was like, oh, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And then this is where I ended up. And these are all the things that kind of make up my spiritual life. The Eightfold Path is something I'm going to study moving forward, and fully understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. That's bars right there. And it's ancient shit, man. That sometimes blows my mind, the stuff that the ancients knew, the stuff that they knew before anything. And they shared via word of mouth before written word. It's beautiful stuff. So we're going to finish up. We're going to move on from the spiritual thing. But what I was thinking? I heard somebody, I listened to a podcast with Matthew McConaughey, who actually, some people are really annoyed by his like woo-woo talk. Hold on. Some people are annoyed by his woo-woo talk. But one thing he talked about was delayed gratification. When he was telling his kids about his kids asked him, what did you win the trophy for? And he shot Dallas Buyers Club. First of all, for Dallas Buyers Club, he lost, I think, 50 pounds. He went from 185 to 135. So he lost 50 pounds. And he talked about that, Joe Rogan asked him, was it hard? And he said, no. He said, I was completely focused. He said, I ate 5 ounces of fish, greens, 2 meals a day, and fruit, and this. And he said, I could drink all the wine I wanted. I lost 2.5 pounds a week. I did not go out to dinner with my family. I did not even want to be tempted. I ate at home. My wife cooked my meals, and it was not difficult at all. I lost all that weight. And he lost all that weight for that role. And then a year and a half later, after shooting that movie, and he told his kids, remember when I was gone for that month? This is why I was gone for that month. This trophy, a year and a half later, is for that time, for that effort I put in a year and a half ago. So for me, what I'm the fruit that is growing, and the vegetables that are the plants, the harvest that is happening in my life right now. I planted these seeds 5 years ago. I planted these seeds 3 years ago. You know what I wanted to be 3 years ago? I wanted to be a personal trainer with a full schedule. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a personal trainer with a full schedule. That was my dream. I want to be an independent personal trainer, and I want to help people get fit. And what did that turn into? Turned into me doing interventions and changing families' lives. But I planted these seeds in my personal development, years ago. I planted the seeds of now being able to do the work that I'm able to do 6.5 years ago when I got sober, and I worked in treatment. I failed and got fired. I wasn't ready, but I got to understand what that life was like, and I got to live in sober living, and I got to, work all the phases of work that I went through, and I planted all those seeds, and I created relationships, and I'm reaping the benefits of that today. I love the idea of delayed gratification. Me as an alcoholic, I love instant gratification. I like if I want to feel better, I will go to one of my favorite stores, Overload on 30th and University, and I will get some new blazers, and I will have immediate gratification. I will immediately feel just a little bit better. I love immediate gratification. I love immediate gratification. When a girl I don't cheat, by the way, just so you guys know. I do not cheat anymore, but I flirt and I get validation. And validation provides brief and immediate gratification. Provides immediate, even just the feeling of acceptance. Because, I'm not doing anything crazy, but the feeling of acceptance, that feels good, So my natural instinct is to lead towards immediate gratification. But what I got to pay attention to now at 30 is return on investment. My return on my investment, the long game. My partner and I have a house in the desert, and we have a 30-year mortgage. And then we'll own that house after 30 years or 25 years. We'll probably pay it down quicker than that. But it's then at the end of it, we will completely own property. Delayed gratification in business. The relationship I created a year and a half ago may be a client a year and a half later. Delayed gratification. Working out, doing the next indicated step, skating every day, lose half a pound a week. Delayed gratification. Having the body you want, delayed gratification, but you do the work, do the next indicated step, right actions. I meditate every day. Hopefully one day when I'm 70 years old, I'll levitate on you bitches and fucking find enlightenment. Delayed gratification. How we doing on time? So yeah, I am perfect. So yeah, I was just contemplating the idea of just he inspired me thinking about that. How it's important for me to nurture that and don't think of the immediate gratification. Think of my that return on investment a year from down the line, or 6 months down the line, or 3 months down the line. So it's interesting. It's interesting stuff. But we're gonna finish up with something that is I think important for all of us, and important for me, especially in the season of life that I'm in right now. It's my needs. And I've talked about this. I've done a whole podcast on this. But I need to meet my own needs. And by say meeting my own needs, I need God to meet my needs. I had this experience once where I wrapped myself in a Native American blanket and meditated for hours, and didn't fall asleep, meditated for hours and just sat. And what I realized in that time of meditation, just wrapped in that blanket, is that I felt like I had the arms of God wrapped around me. And I realized that God or a spiritual life will meet my needs, not the world. Again, not the world. It's meeting our own needs. It's interesting. It's not up to my partner to meet my needs. It's not up to my friends to play every role. It's not up to my partner to play every role. It's not up for my parents to play their role. It's not up to, this person to play their role. Everybody has a role they play, and can meet, partner can meet intimacy needs and sexual needs, and some needs there, financial needs or security needs. Your friends can provide intimacy, male friends or female friends if you're a female, male friends if you're a male, can provide security and meet some needs. Your parents play the parental role and meet some needs, feeling of being nurtured by your parents, and they feel that need. But really, when it comes down to it, I need to meet my own needs. And I was looking at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because I went down a rabbit hole for this podcast. And then, so like at the bottom, the primary foundational physiological needs: food, water, warmth, and rest. Okay, that's the basics of what we need. And then safety needs: safety and security. Safety and security is subjective, right? But in a relationship, if you don't feel safe and secure, can be a traumatic experience. sometimes in a relationship, and I've done this, I've made women feel unsafe and insecure with themselves, not being able to trust their own intuition, not being able to trust their own judgment. So I've broken, and I think we're doing this to each other, male and female, where we're supposed to meet each other. We're supposed to meet our own needs, but in a codependent relationship, in a manipulative relationship, and an emotionally abusive relationship, we're stealing each other's security and safety sometimes. And that, without those needs being met, the foundation, the hierarchy doesn't, the alignment, you're out of alignment when you don't feel safe and secure. So the next is belongingness and needs of love, intimate relationships, and friends. That belongingness, that's probably one of the needs that wasn't met for me. And I talked about this with my friend Dylan this morning. That belongingness, I still don't feel it. I still, man, fuck. I still just want to be liked. Just like me, dude. Why doesn't everybody like me? Not everybody's going to like you. But I still feel like I don't belong, man. I still feel like I don't belong, And doing ecstasy with your friends, even though ecstasy is synthetic and like dirty ecstasy, it has like meth in it, But the idea of feeling like with real MDMA, the connection you feel, despite it being exogenous, is divine in itself. And I do believe that, MAPS is doing work with MDMA. I'm excited for what we're going to do with MDMA culturally and scientifically in the next 20 years. But that synthetic connection, I was seeking that. Those blunt rides, I was seeking that. Those heroin treks where we go find dope and go find rigs. I needed those connections and belongingness. And yeah, that's just I needed that, and intimate relationships, I have those today with men. I have intimate relationships with men. I have an intimate relationship with my partner, But for a long time, I didn't have friends. They weren't my friends. They would call me a nigger all the time and make fun of my ethnicity or make fun of my sexuality or just, abuse me. And I would abuse them. So it's no victim. But I allowed them to do that. I just wanted to fit in so bad. But so much of my life, I didn't have emotional connection, I think that's why I've always been so drawn to female friendships, because women have accepted me more than men have. Men have just shitted on me for most of my life. Just never had a great connection with men. So that's something I've changed over my recovery. Over the last 4 years, I just grew intimate relationships with men and started becoming, close with men. And then it's esteem needs, prestige, and feeling of accomplishment. I'll tell you that, when I was broke, at my brokest, my business was dead and dead in the water, no clients. I felt so depressed. It exacerbated my depression. My self-esteem was shot, And I think now what makes me feel better is that I have a little bit more of a self-esteem than I've ever had. I have more self-esteem now at 30 than I've had in my entire life. Honestly, 2020 has been the best year of my life. But I have a feeling of not prestige, but I have a feeling of accomplishment. Working with clients, even if it's not the happiest of endings, I feel like we did a job. And, even working with the parents, I feel like we're doing a job and we're accomplishing something magical, working with the parents. And the last, at the top of the pyramid, is self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. And this is the one that I actually feel the need feel I'm meeting right now. I feel like, and I say this on the podcast, the way I am here on this podcast is the way I am in 12-step, is the way I speak at home, is the way I speak to my friends, the way I speak to my sponsees. I'm consistent, bitch. I'm myself. I'm actualizing my potential. I'm not at my highest potential, but I'm at my highest I've ever been. I'm at the highest potential I've ever been. And honestly, so back to tie this bitch together, because that's what we do out here. We're not just rambling, we're tying shit together. When I had that blanket wrapped around me, I couldn't meet these needs by myself. I needed something divine to help me meet these needs. And that ties it in to this whole spiritual God conversation we had today, is that I need to continue to mature in my spiritual relationship. I need to continue to mature in my spiritual relationship, and that's how my needs are met. And that's why I meditate every day, because I know that, I intuitively know how to handle situations and live life in that right action. Let's go back to them. That right understanding, that right thought, that right speech, that right action, that right livelihood, that right effort, that right mindfulness, that right connection. That's all found in my meditation practice, and has made it so I can meet some needs. God is meeting my needs. God's doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. And it's easy to believe in God when you live the life that I lived. Like, you can't argue. Like, you can't tell me God doesn't exist. Even though, like, where's the science? Hey, man, my life's a miracle, and I choose to actualize that miracle by using the word God. It's almost unexplainable why I got sober the way I did, and how magically I didn't want to shoot dope anymore. Seemingly, only magic could have changed it. It's either magic or God, whatever you want to call it. And I have friends who are shamans and believe in magic. So you can call it magic, or you can call it God, whatever you want to call it. But when you live a life like I live and come out of it on the other side a better person than when you started, that's God to me. So it's pretty easy to be spiritual. But part of my journey, the similar journey of the Buddha that we're all walking, that I'm walking along, and that we're all walking along, whether we know it or not, on that journey, it's growing intimate relationship with self and consciousness and God, if you have an understanding of God. So this is an ASMR podcast. I spoke very slowly into the microphone, but we're going to end it there. If you're listening, rate the podcast. If you listened all the way through, rate the podcast. If you want to watch the podcast, go to bigmoodcoach.com. Follow me at Eric_bigmoodcoach. I'll put the link to this. I'll put the link to this article in the bio. It is by Reverend Dr. Shanta Premawardhana. And it is called 3 Buddhist Insights That Made Me a Better Christian. So thank you. We love you. We want to connect with you. And we are fucking out of here. Damn, that was good.